Hey there, welcome back to the series. In part 2, we are diving into the all-important project setup. Today, I will show you how to properly separate your Django settings for development and production. This will make your project much more manageable as it grows and ensure you're ready for smooth deployment when the time comes. But that is not all. We are going to integrate Tailwind CSS in our Django project to give our e-commerce site a sleek. I'll walk you through the configuration step by step so you can style your site effortlessly. If you are ready to get your hands dirty with some code and take your project setup to the next level, let's jump right in. So the first thing you need to do in any of your project is to create your virtual environment. So to create virtual environment, ensure that you are installed Python in your machine. So for me, I'm using Python 3.12. That is my latest Python version that I am using. So I will use that to create my virtual environment. So here is how you will create your virtual environment. So Python manage Python 3.12 dash m dash virtual environment env.env.env is the virtual environment name. So you will hit enter and wait a few seconds for the virtual environment to be created. So to give you a little bit more information about virtual environment is very crucial for any project since it gives the isolated environment for that specific project. So the next thing, once we have created virtual environment, we need to activate that virtual environment. To do that, we need to use source for those who are using Linux systems and those using Mac OS systems. I believe this is how you activate your virtual environment in Mac OS systems. Once we activate our virtual environment, we will know that our virtual environment has been activated when we see something like this and bracketed the name of the virtual environment. For people in Windows, I believe you will change this. You will have / something like source environment name, and then you will use / instead of backslash. Okay, and then something like scripts. Okay, and then you will activate your virtual environment. Let me clear my terminal, and then the next step, now we have activated our virtual environment. Now let us install Django. So pip install Django, then wait some few seconds for Django to be installed in your system, and then we shall create a Django project. Okay, so you can see when you run this command, it will install latest Django version, which is at the time of recording this video, the latest Django version was 5.11. So the next thing, since we have installed Django in our system, in our virtual environment, now we have to create our project. So to create our project, we will use Django admin start project and give that project a name. Let's call it Django E-Commerce. Hit enter, few seconds. Django E-Commerce project will be generated. Okay. You can see there are files that have been automatically generated. We have sgi.py, we have settings.py, we have URLs, we have wsgi.py. Okay, so these two files are the entry point to the servers, and the settings is a file that will contain all the project settings, and then URL will hold all the parts of this project. So the next thing we need to do, as I had said earlier, that we will split the settings so that we can have production settings on a separate file, and then development settings on another separate file. So what we will do to achieve that is, let's create a directory here and call it settings. And inside that settings, let's initialize this directory so that we can tell Django or Python treat this folder as Python package. So let's use the init file.py. Okay, so once we have done init file.py, now let's create those files. Let's have base.py file. This is the file that will contain all project settings that are common to both production and development settings. So the next thing you need to do is create development.py. So development.py file will hold all settings that are required for local development. And then we have production.py file. This file will hold all settings that are required when we deploy our application for production. So this is the file that will have all the requirements. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, let's go to our settings.py file, control all, and then we can cut everything and then paste it right here in base.py. We pasted everything, so let us delete this settings.py since we don't need it anymore. So we copied everything from settings.py before deleting it and pasted it inside base.py. So right here we shall have all common settings for both development and production settings. Now let us configure our development settings. So the first thing we need to do is first thing we need to do in our development.py is to import everything from base.py. So to do that, simple, we shall say from .base import everything, use asterisk. Then from there, now we want to define our settings. Let's remove our settings that belong to development from our base.py. So for example, we need to copy this. Let's cut it and then paste it right here, because in development we want debug to be true, but in production we want the value to be false. And then the next step we need to do is, let's remove these allowed hosts, because in production we shall have different allowed hosts other than from production. So let's add this one as well here. So let's define our allowed hosts. Let's say our allowed host for development, we have localhost, and as well let us add 127.0.0.1. So these are the hosts that are allowed in development, of which these cannot be allowed in production. It can't work in production. So production shall have its own allowed hosts. So the next thing we need to do, let's define our domains. Let's say domains is the list. Domains as well, we shall have localhost, and then we shall have the same 127.0.0.1. You need to have secure SSL redirect to be false. Secure SSL direct equals to false. So secure SSL redirect to be false, since when we are developing locally, we will not be using HTTPS. Instead, we will be using HTTP. So we don't need to have this true, but in production, this value will be true. So the next setting you need to do, you need to add CSRF trusted origins. Okay, so say CSRF origins. This one is a list as well. So we shall have HTTP, then we shall have localhost at port 8000, and then we shall have as well HTTP, then 127.0.0.1, at port 8000. So the next thing we need to do is let us configure our database. In development, we are going to use SQLite 3 engine for our database, and in production we use PostgreSQL, and we shall learn on how to configure that and connect it. So let's add our databases. So we can go back to our base.html and look for database. So we need to remove this. Let's cut it out and then paste it right here. So we are going to use SQLite for our development database. And now the next thing we need to do, let's configure production settings. The same thing, we need to import everything from base.html, everything. So we shall say from .base import everything, and then as we said, it will be the opposite. Everything will be opposite of development. So the bug here, let's copy it and paste it here. So this one will be false. In production settings, the bug will be false, and then allow the hosts. Then let's copy this, allow the hosts, let's paste it there. For now, let us remove these ones. So here, if you have your domain, this is where you will add your domain, and for us we will be deploying this project on Vercel, so we will configure this so that it can be deployed on Vercel. The next thing we need to do, let us configure database. As I said earlier, for production we are going to use PostgreSQL database engine, and for development we are going SQLite 3. So that is the difference. So let's configure our databases production. So in databases, and then let's open a dictionary, and then say default database that we are going to use. Let's open another dictionary. Let's define the engine that will be used. We will use PostgreSQL, so Django .backends PostgreSQL. Okay. Give a comma, and then we shall have the name of that database. Let me leave it blank because we haven't created that name yet. Let's have a user, and let me leave it blank as well. And then let me have a password as well, leave it blank. And then let me have a host, and let me leave it blank as well because we have not created all these credentials. And then let's have port, selling from which port. Let me leave it blank as well, and let us add conmax age. I will set something like 600, and then let's have connection health checks. Let me set this to true, and then let's have some optional settings. So we shall have options, and then say SSL mode. It should be in small letters. So SSL mode, let's say it is the requirement. It requires SSL mode, and then let's have client encoding. We shall use UTF-8. So having all this, we will have set our database for production. We learn on how to create this, and also on how to hide this sensitive information by hiding it in .env. We find that in the environment, then reading that data from the environment, and then using it in our database. The next thing we need to do, production as well. We will set up, we will add some settings. First one is disable server-side cursors. Let be just true. Then let's have secure SSL redirect true. This means like in production you want to use SSL, that is it will be more secure. And then let's have secure proxy SSL header. Let's have HTTPX forward proto and HTTPS. So we shall have HTTPX forwarded proto. These are settings that increase security of the application, and let's use HTTPS. And then we need to have another setting, say secure hosts as HSTS seconds. Let's set these to 60, and then let us have secure hosts, that is HSTS include subdomains true, and then let us have secure SSL session cookie secure true, and also have CSRF cookie secure to be true. And then let us have secure browser XSS filter true, and then let us have secure host preload true, and then we shall have our domain. Now this will contain your domain. Let me leave it blank for now, but we'll set it once we start deploy. And then let's have CSRF trusted origin, then we shall add that domain inside here. So these are the settings for production. The next thing we want to do is add some code to our initializing file telling Django which settings to use in what environment. So what we will do, let's use this package called OS import. Let's use OS import OS, that is operating system. Let's set our Django settings module. So let's say settings module equals to os dot get env, and then Django settings module. Okay, so we want to set which settings should this Django use in which environment. So let's start with production. So we'll create a check, say if settings dot settings module, if settings module equals to Django E-Commerce, is our project dot settings dot production. If that is the settings, we want to import all settings from production file. So we shall have from dot production import everything. In Python, to import everything, use asterisk, and then let's say else, let's import everything from developer. So this basically, we have created a condition which checks if this settings module is using production setting. If it's set to use production settings, then it should use those settings from production file. If not, then use develop. So we can confirm if our setting is working by running migrations and see if it will run migrations well. So let's change our directory to our project, and then python manage.py migrate. Okay, you can see it has created the necessary tables. You can see our database is right here. So that means our settings worked perfectly. And then let me clear it, and now let us run the server. Python manage.py run server. Okay, and see the server is running. So if I go to my browser and try localhost 8000, can see we have localhost. We need to add it to allowed host. We try 127. It's working. So let's add that here localhost. Okay, so this I spelled it localhost. So 127 is working. Let's try localhost. So now both are working. Okay, so in this video we have managed to split development settings from production setting. Okay, because you don't want to deploy your application with development settings. Okay, so we have managed to do that. So that is all for this video. Please consider subscribing and also hitting that bell icon so that whenever I post a video on this project, you will get notified. And if you have any issue or any comment, any suggestion, please feel free to comment in comment section. Having said that, see you in the next